Anyone who studies World War II field gear knows the soldiers didn't have the luxury of modern synthetics, reflective foams, or compressible down. Yet they managed to stay alive through freezing rains, trench mud, and sub-zero nights, where wet clothing meant hypothermia within minutes. And buried in the field manuals and veteran accounts is a technique so effective that many soldiers swore it kept them warmer than any sleeping bag of the era. It's a method that relied not on specialized equipment, but on understanding heat retention, moisture management, and how to create a microenvironment inside the very conditions trying to kill you. Before nylon and modern insulation existed, this was the hack that kept soaked infantrymen alive long enough to see the morning. And the best part is that it still works today for anyone who camps, hikes, or prepares for emergencies, especially in cold, damp regions where almost everything eventually gets wet. The heart of the technique began with how World War II troops treated their outer layer. The field manuals repeatedly emphasize one truth. Staying warm was less about insulation and more about blocking wind. If the wind penetrated your clothing, no amount of wool could save you once it became damp. Soldiers created what they called a shell barrier, using whatever wind-resistant material they had. Sometimes it was their rain cape, sometimes their rubberized shelter half, and other times the wax canvas of their pack. Instead of wrapping themselves in blankets first, they built the wind barrier on the outside and trapped the natural heat their body produced on the inside. In practice today, this same principle is applied by putting a windproof layer, like a poncho or tarp, around the outside of your insulated clothing or emergency blanket instead of underneath it. The sequence matters because insulation works best when air inside it stays still. Wet, cold clothing alone cannot do that, but a tight wind barrier can. The soldiers then used wool not as a comfort layer, but as a moisture buffer. Modern campers treat wool as an insulating base layer, but World War II infantry used it as a sponge-like middle zone to handle sweat, condensation, and rain seepage. Wool retains heat even when wet because its fibres trap pockets of air that don't fully collapse with moisture. That characteristic gave them a crucial advantage. They could be soaked to the bone and still generate enough heat to warm the air trapped between their body and the wool. When paired with the windproof shell, that wet wool turned from a liability into a controlled heat reservoir. Today you can recreate this by wearing wool thermals or a wool sweater under a windproof poncho. Even if you fall into a stream or get caught in hours of rain, you can crawl under shelter, wrap the poncho tightly, and allow your body to gradually warm the wool layer. This method can prevent hypothermia long enough to start a fire or reach help. The final step of the hack involved using ground insulation more strategically than most people do now. World War II manuals warned soldiers that sleeping directly on cold ground drained heat faster than the cold air above them. Since most did not have sleeping pads, they built what they called lift beds. These were made from pine boughs, grass mats, spare clothing, or even the empty ration boxes used in the field. The goal was simple: lift the body off the earth and create an insulating layer of dead air. When conditions were wet, this step became even more essential because it prevented water from wicking into the wool layers and robbing the soldier of heat. A modern camper can replicate this by laying down pine branches, brush, cardboard, or even their backpack and spare clothing. The thickness doesn't need to be extreme. 8 to 10 centimeters is enough to slow conductive heat loss dramatically. This technique still outperforms many modern sleeping bags when everything is wet. The uncomfortable truth is that most synthetic or down bags lose a huge percentage of their insulation value when soaked. Even modern wet-rated down bags struggle once water gets deep into the baffles. A wool and wind shell system doesn't depend on keeping insulation completely dry. Its effectiveness comes from controlling airflow and leveraging the properties of wool to retain heat despite moisture. If you were to test this today, by falling into cold water, wringing out your wool clothing, wrapping a windproof poncho tight around your torso, and elevating yourself off the ground, you would warm up much faster than if you crawled into even a high-end sleeping bag, fully soaked. It is a survival method that works whether you are camping caught in a storm or stranded with nothing but basic gear. This knowledge becomes practical when you know how to apply it step by step. If you are caught in the rain and cannot stay dry, remove any cotton layers immediately, since cotton collapses when wet. Keep or switch to wool. Wring out what you can. Wrap your windproof layer tightly around your torso first, then around your legs. Sit on your pack or build a quick ground lift from brush, sticks or grass. Pull the wool layer close to your skin so it warms quickly. Your breath and body heat will gradually create a warm pocket inside the shell. This is the same principle many World War II veterans used in foxholes, slit trenches and dugouts when dry gear was impossible to maintain. It requires patience, but it works. If lessons like this, pulled straight from field manuals and real soldier experience, are valuable to you, make sure to subscribe to In the Beginning and share this video with someone who appreciates practical history. These forgotten techniques aren't just stories, they're tools that still keep people alive today.